Life after death. Eyewitness accounts.
My near-death experience. My name is Susan. On a rainy Saturday morning in Illinois, I remember that winter day in Texas in 1955, standing at the kitchen sink in our new home, I thought about my husband from the Air Force, who left a week ago on a 3-year assignment in England. My 2 precious daughters, Katie, 6, and Carol, 18 months, played by my side. We were to join my husband in a few weeks. What a wonderful life our life has been, and how lucky we have been. 2 years ago I was an atheist, and now I am a Christian and have a Christian home and family. Death came with a call. As I stood in the kitchen, pain suddenly shot through my stomach and made me fall to my knees. For an hour I was too weak to stay on my feet. I was worried about my children and I called my mother and father to come and help. As a nurse, I knew something critical was going on and I tried to think logically about the source of the pain. The week before, I had visited the gynecologist at the airbase because I knew I was pregnant. After examination, he did not agree with me and said that I was not pregnant. I didn't believe him. As I lay on my bed in pain, I knew what my symptoms were telling me. I was normally pregnant before, but it was an ectopic pregnancy where the embryo was implanted in the fallopian tube instead of the uterus. This meant that the pain I felt was caused by the rupture of the tube as the embryo grew, and that I had an abdominal hemorrhage. Our minister and his wife came to pray with my mother and father. Life after death. The trip to the base hospital was painful. Upon arrival, my father and I were told to wait, even though my symptoms became known to the staff. I was finally laid on the table in the exam room when I started to feel like my life was slipping away and my thoughts were about my children and what will happen to them. Who will love and care for them? My hearing was excellent. I could hear every word exchanged in that room. There were 2 doctors and 3 assistants present. I could tell that they were worried as they were trying to take their heartbeat and blood pressure. At that moment, I began to slowly float towards the ceiling, where I stopped and looked down at the scene taking place below. My lifeless body lay on the table, and one doctor told the doctor who had just come in the door, "Where were you? We called you. Now it's too late, she's gone. We can't measure her heartbeat or blood pressure." Another doctor said, "What shall we tell her husband? He is on assignment in England and has only been away for a week." Standing above them, I said to myself, "Yes. What are you going to tell my husband? That's a good question. Very thoughtful of you." I remember thinking at that moment, how can I be a comedian at a time like this? I no longer saw myself down on the table or the people in the room. I suddenly became aware of the most heavenly light that was all-encompassing. My pain was gone and my body felt free like never before. I felt joy and satisfaction. I heard the most beautiful music that could only come from heaven. I thought, so this is how heavenly music sounds. I realized a sense of peace that transcends all understanding. I began to look at this light and realized what was happening to me, and I did not want to go anywhere. I was in the presence of a divine being, one who is called the Son of God, Jesus. I didn't see him, but he was there in the light and spoke to me telepathically. I felt the overwhelming love of God. He told me that I had to go back to my little children and that I needed to finish the work on earth. I did not want to leave, but I slowly returned to my body, which by this time was in another room. Preparing for the operation, I regained consciousness long enough for my heart to start beating again, and I had to undergo surgery to remove the tubal pregnancy and blood from my abdomen. From that moment on, I was unaware of anything for several hours. Divine visitation at the bedside of the sick. Heaven had another message for me, and this time I did not leave my body. I was in a recovery bed after surgery and the greatest moment of my life happened. The heavenly light returned again, completely filling the room. This time a vision of Jesus came to me from the light, and he was beautiful. He filled the room with his presence, and his love and mercy were there. The vision I saw of him included his shoulders to the top of his head. He spoke to me telepathically, speaking, "Remember what I told you. Remember how I revealed myself to you. And this will be a comfort and a steady source for you in the years to come and for the work you will do. Now you know that you do not need to be afraid of death." Next days. In the next few days of my stay in the hospital, I had many curious hospital staff who found excuses to visit my room. The news spread quickly in the medical communities, and everyone knew that I was declared dead and then revived again. My Bible was next to me, and when the gynecologist visited me, he took note and asked me about my religious beliefs. I knew that he heard what I said to some of the staff who came to visit me. They were present when I was pronounced dead. After I recovered, I told them about all their conversations at the time of my death. They were amazed. Leaving the base hospital a few days later, driving up to our house, I saw in the window my child and 6-year-old daughter who were looking for us. I said in my heart, "Thank you, God, for allowing me to return to my little children and granting me the privilege of being their mother. I will always remember their sweet faces at the window." The following years. Later we joined my husband in England and fulfilled our mission of working with children and teenagers. My experience with death has given a greater dimension to my life and my Sunday school work with young people. Back in the States, my family grew and I continued my work and education teaching nursing as a university professor. I have always been grateful that I was brought back to earth and given another chance, and that my time here should be used wisely. Now I am retired. I have lived a very good life, and the experience of death that I experienced still lives in my heart, soul and spirit, 43 years later. The grace and love of God is eternal. My experience of death was sacred to me and I kept it close to my heart. I shared this only with my husband and father, and later with my children. In the 1970s, books began to appear on the subject, and I found a whole population of people with similar experiences. However, many of these people said that they were reconsidering their lives and were in a tunnel. I have not experienced either one or the other. Perhaps my life review happened when I became a Christian. When I reviewed my life and confessed my sins to Christ. It is comforting to me that our society today is well informed and research on death and dying is steadily advancing. The tunnel experience may only occur in about 30% of all NDEs. I think NDE is given to us. What we need